This is Table Talk with Sid. I'm Sid, professional LA choreographer, former Olympic level gymnast, soccer player. I've turned life improvement motivational speaker. I absolutely love helping people create the life they choose. So I'm chatting along with John again. And John, I'm excited to be back here because we haven't done this in a little bit. And I do absolutely love the opportunity to sit and chat. I want to talk about downfalls in life today, about the fact that often people believe that when they're having a hiccup or a downfall in life, that they're having a problem, when in reality, they're not having a problem. They're having an awareness and awakening, and they're actually now starting to fly. It's just the opposite of what people think is happening. So there was a woman, I was listening to this radio station, this woman comes on, and she is having problems. She's in a custody battle for her children, and sounds to me like she has some challenges with balance in life. She may or may not, I'm not sure, have some addiction issues, but she definitely has thoughts of suicide. So when she came on, she was asking for advice. It's kind of a station where you can go on and ask for advice, and the public can give their 2 cents. And I thought it was really interesting because her main focus was keeping her children. No matter what she had to do was to keep her children. And how many people were coming back saying, you fight, you keep your children, every woman has the right to keep her children, the courts will help women keep their children, on and on. And I think a lot of what was being missed is that she may have these rights, but you can't give what you don't own. So if she doesn't own balance and peace and inspiration, gratitude, all these things that, that add up to stability, the ability to raise individuals to be balanced individuals, then that kind of feedback or that kind of support I don't think is really helpful. Because if you can't give what you don't own, what does she own? She owns ill balance. She owns a life that is a bit lost right now. So these are the things she's going to be giving to her children. But in that same discussion, I think it's interesting because so many people think that life is built off of the attempt to live it perfectly. And life is not meant to live it perfectly. Life actually is meant to be imperfect. And that's the beauty of life. It's like those paintings that we go find from these artists from decades and centuries ago. And if you start peeling the paint back, you'll find that they have erred time and time again, right? They try, it's wrong, they try again. They try, it's wrong, they try again. But what gives that painting value? It's the decades and centuries of error and correction. So if that's what makes art brilliant and valuable, because if you're really being truthful, if that artist were to do it perfect the very first time, that art wouldn't be as valuable because it's the perfection of attempting for perfection, right? So if you think of our lives, people who think that we should be living this perfect life, that's backwards thinking. In actuality, the beauty of our imperfection and our hiccups and the things that are challenging us and the things that are pulling us down, that's really the beauty. Where the problem is if we never attempt to overcome it. So as you have a hiccup, you have an awareness that you need help or you need to do certain things to help yourself. That's actually flying. That's not falling down and having an issue. And I think for this woman who's struggling so hard to keep her children, if she could just take a moment and realize the best gift, and I think the greatest gift she could give her children and herself, is to allow those children to go be with her father. So she can take a moment, now that she has an awareness that she has some issues with thoughts, suicidal thoughts, ill balance, maybe some drug abuse, go get help. Go get support. Go readjust and reorganize her life so that she can fill herself up so she has something to give. But society has that thing that's so built within so many people, which is give me, I'm owed, you owe me, give me, instead of taking that moment. And so I thought that topic was really interesting because I really hope that more people can see that when we have these challenges, no matter how big they are, it's not that you are failing. You're only failing when you fail to attempt to do something about it. That attempt means you may attempt time and time again, because correction doesn't always happen the first time, right? Correction may happen the 5th time, but the fourth, third, second, and first time, you're implementing different things into the correction so that when you got to that 5th time, it's actually correct this time. So the love, I think, and the learning to love life as an imperfect thing, and that life is like art, and living it imperfectly, but realizing there's imperfections, wanting to overcome and better those imperfections, and building upon the hiccups that you have, that's what makes a life beautiful. Because if you really look at it also, the people that are most admired in this world, that you really admire and go, wow, I really appreciate that, from athletes to people who have made money to just people in general, the ones who have had more struggle and overcome that struggle are the people we go, wow, I really admire that person. Look at what they've been through and look at where they are. Opposed to someone that has been handed everything, right? Been given money, been given the coattails of mommy and daddy, been given opportunity just because mommy or daddy or whomever could make the phone call, and now you have a label, or now you have a job, or whatever it is. So if we all could have this realization that life is not meant to live perfectly, it is meant to live imperfectly. It is meant to have as many hiccups as whatever comes with it, but the brilliance is the overcoming of those hiccups. The brilliance is even the years, because I'm not saying you would want to have problems the rest of your life, but the fact of the matter is, no one's going to live on the face of this earth without problems. So those things I think are valuable, and I would love to get feedback from you, because one thing I really appreciate that comes from you is that when discussing things with you is kind of coming from that everyday person that's out in society that has similar thoughts, similar ideas, and similar viewpoints of maybe the discussions we're having. And I'd like to know how you feel about that idea of really celebrating the imperfections of life and really living that way. And if you have, John, any examples of people who either are struggling to allow themselves to be imperfect. Now, I'm not saying that people should have their imperfections and love the fact that they're freaking out stealing, or that they're out doing things they shouldn't be doing and now they're in prison and I'm imperfect and now I'm happy because I'm not going to overcome anything. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we have issues, all of us, but the beauty is overcoming. What are your thoughts?
Well, you were saying a minute ago, talking about the idea of people who have problems, but their parents help them out of everything. And that reminded me of the story of Spider-Man, if you've seen that movie.
Yeah.
And there's like a pivotal scene in that show where him and his friend Harry, whose father is Norman Osborn, who is the rich scientist who becomes the Green Goblin later on. But anyway, they're at his house, in his apartment, and he's talking to Peter Parker, who is a photographer, and he says, "Hey, I heard you're studying this or that or whatever. I'd like to give you maybe a scholarship or fund your studies or something. And he says, no, I'd like to kind of make it on my own steam. And I don't know, but that one little scene in that movie really spoke volumes, I think, about like reality and the way people are, because they've set that scene up so well. Harry Osborn, his son, is basically been given everything, and he's kind of, he's kind of spoiled, doesn't really appreciate much. And
so are you saying that the character, the Spider-Man character, right, is maybe in his mind seeing that it didn't really give his friend all the stepping stones it could have.
Right.
It just made him entitled.
Yeah.
And what he's thinking for himself, if I take this help, it will make me entitled. I'd rather take the journey and go through the hiccups
Right.
and overcome. Okay.
And I thought about that when I saw that movie. And I mean, I'm a huge fan of Spider-Man anyway, ever since I was a kid. But like that little point right there really spoke to me because I felt that same way. Like, I mean, I guess there's similarities except for the fact that I don't crawl on walls, but I'm a photographer.
Right.
And I, for the longest time, taught myself how to do photography. I didn't go to school or anything, mostly because I couldn't afford it. So I was not a rich kid. I grew up in kind of I wouldn't say like poor family, but just, I guess regular family where we don't have a lot of money, and I couldn't go to a really expensive school or whatever. So because my mom was a photographer and she did odd jobs here and there, like she worked for a calendar company shooting calendar photos, and she did like high school photos and weddings and things. And so I kind of just picked up from her and learned all I know from her, and then from building on that and teaching myself. And now I think I appreciate photographs more so than most people would. And so I guess it goes along with what you're saying, is that if you create something on your own, you really do appreciate the outcome. Like when I take a picture, or even when I look at someone else's picture, I can really appreciate any kind of photo I look at, because I look at it further than just like, oh, it's a picture of a cat.
Right.
I'll look at it and say, oh, I can see where the lighting is coming from. I can tell if whether or not they really set the shot up, or if it was just, a snapshot.
Okay, so this is interesting, because now you've opened up a new door, and I really am interested to hear your feedback. So I have a girlfriend who has inherited millions of dollars, not just 1 million, not just 10 million, okay? And her family is very well to do, obviously, and her family never let her know. So she went to public school, excuse me, she had to go get a job, and at the age of 21 is when they allowed her to know that she inherited all this money, okay? Now, part of the beauty is also they did not give all this money to her in one lump sum, so she gets a certain amount every year. However, the woman never, nor her children, nor her children's children, and on down, will never ever have to work if they so choose to live that way. However, this is interesting because there is some value to having, money is not the problem, it's what you do or do not do with money, right? That's where the problem is. She works as hard as the average individual works to be wealthy as she does to be poor. Because in her mind, she has an issue with how, excuse me again, how her family and her grandma and her father have dealt with money, how they see money, and how they treat people who don't have as much money. So she sees money as a downfall. So she works hard to be poor. Well, in reality, if she would just take a moment and see the gift within that, she doesn't have to have that kind of money and behave like her grandma or like her father. But she could welcome that money and go, she's into foundations and giving, which is all fabulous. But she could go and do more for the community, for society, for the world if she could allow herself to have gratitude for what she's been given. Doesn't mean now that coattail thing. If you're on, let's say, on the coattail of daddy, well, if you lack gratitude, you're going to go deal with money, behave with money the same way he does. But the money could be yours. And if you're not on the coattail of him, you could accept that money and go recreate that money into something you find more value in. And so I think that both of those areas, it comes down to balance, right? It comes down to balance. It comes down to character. It comes down to finding true value of what life really is and having gratitude. And I think that's probably where a lot of the hiccup is, because if someone handed me money, I would not turn it away, right? I wouldn't turn it away just so that I could have more experience of not having money. And I wouldn't turn it away so I could have more experience so that I could really have more challenge. I know I would accept it, but I would accept it with the opportunity to do more great things with that money.
Yes.
To help others who cannot help themselves, so on and so forth. Do you agree with that?
I do. Also, I'm thinking you could even use that money to further your own greatness, so to speak.
Right.
Because in my line of work, I do photography on the side, aside from, my day-to-day grind. And sometimes I'll do a photography project for a friend, or maybe somebody who was referred from a friend, and they'll say, hey, I don't have a lot of money, which I in turn understand because I've come from that kind of lifestyle.
Right.
Like, you know what? It's not a big deal. I'll shoot the pictures for free.
Right.
And I've done this quite a few times, and then in the end, they'll be like, wow, I really like your work. I almost feel guilty now getting this kind of work for free. And they'll give me like $25, maybe $50. Like, I just want you to take this. Don't say no. Please just take it, because it makes me feel like I'm showing some kind of gratitude and giving you what you're worth in a way. Because I don't think you should be doing this kind of work for nothing.
Right.
And it's all of a sudden they feel bad. And then, of course, I don't want to insult them and be like, no. I mean, if they insist, then yes. If not, no, keep it. It was for free. Like, no, and there have been times, like, please take this or I'm going to be mad. And so then I'll just take it, and I'll just put it right back into my photography stuff.
Right, I see
Save it, put it aside. Not go run out and spend it on something, but put it aside. Like, you know what?
So
this is something,
more good.
Exactly. I can actually pay it forward into better gear or better setup or whatever, so that I can continue to improve and take even better pictures the next time.
Right. So really what you're saying, because all of this has now come full circle, really what the discussion is about is, so this woman may lose her children, thoughts of suicide, maybe some addiction, but really what it comes down to, whether you're coming from challenge like this, or someone like my friend has opportunity to have millions, what it really comes down to is you must find a way to have gratitude, number one. Fill yourself up, meaning feel good about yourself. Find the value within yourself. Find your talents. Find what means something to you. Then, once you've filled yourself up, you have something to give. Then you can go back out in the world, and if you're like my girlfriend that has money, now go use that money to better yourself, better the world, to better society. This woman who's struggling, fill herself up. Become the woman, closer to the woman she's striving to be, so that she now has opportunity to have some kind of custody of these children. And when they come to her, she's not now giving them all the negative, how to have more downfalls and how to think about having more drug abuse. She's now able to use her history and her hiccups and her challenges to better their lives, how to fill them up, help them become who they're meant to be, and help them to have a different outlook on life. Hey, thanks again, everyone, for joining me. It's always such a pleasure. If you want to find me on another social media platform, you can find me on Facebook at Table Talk with Sid USA or Sydney Dawn N. Hall, Twitter at TTW or Table Talk with Sid, Instagram, Table Talk with Sid or Table Talk with Sid USA. When you're out in that world, make sure you're looking for the good. It will help your day bloom a little easier. Thanks again. Talk to you.